All right, in this lesson we will attempt to solve multi-step equations, and multi-step equations are the next branch up from two-step. After two-step, you no longer call them three-step, four-step, etc. They are just known as multi-step equations. And for multi-step equations, those are going to use more than two operations to solve. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5, but it's more than 2. All right, what I'm going to give you next are the steps to solve a multi-step equation, and these steps are going to be on an as-needed basis, but they have to come in this order if you have them in your problem. So the very first thing you will always have to do in every type of equation is to distribute first. And that comes on an as-needed basis. If there's no distributing in your problem, then obviously you won't do this first. The second thing you will have to do after distributing is to combine like terms. And again, that is on an as-needed basis as well. If there's no like terms to combine, then there's no step 2. Right? Some problems will literally have all of these steps, and some will only have a couple. After you've distributed and combined like terms, the third thing you will have to do is undo the add or subtract term. So this is where you go back to your normal two-step equations. And the last step that you will have to do is then undo your multiplication or division term. And that should get you to the answer that you're looking for if you haven't made any careless mistakes along the way. Okay, so the rest of what I'm going to show you are, again, examples of different varieties that are all considered multi-step equations, so that you can see what they look like and how they're different from each other, yet how they still use the same steps to get to the answer. Okay, they are longer in length because they are multi-step equations, so don't expect a short one, and do make sure you're showing your work because it is impossible to do these in your head. All right, here's the first one. You see parentheses, so that clues you in that you have to distribute. The number touching the parentheses is the -2, so we're going to distribute -2 to everybody first. -2 times 3n is -6n. -2 times -15 is a +30. Bring down the 46n in the front, and bring down equals 60 on the other side. If you like the wall effect, there's your wall. Okay. The second step you have to do is combine like terms. If we look in this problem, we have the like terms of 46n and -6n. 46 minus 6 leaves us with 40n plus 30 equals 60. And you'll notice that you are right back to a standard two-step equation. So you follow your typical rules of undoing, adding, and subtracting, and then undoing, multiplying, dividing. So the opposite of adding 30 will be to subtract 30 from both sides. Cancel them out. Bring down your 40n equals 60 minus 30 is 30. Then to detach 40 and n, or separate them, you're going to divide by 40 on both sides, which cancels out the 40, and you have n equals 30 does not divide by 40, so we have to leave this as a fraction, and always leave your fractions in reduced term. So 30 over 40 will become 3/4. So your final answer is 3/4. Do not give me 0.75. Remember, if decimals are not in your original equation, you will never have a decimal for an answer. Start training yourself early. All right, the next one. It's going to be a little different, but still considered a multi-step. A lot of students panic over this one because they see the length of the left side, but if you start looking closely at it, the next step you do is going to condense this equation rather drastically. There are no distributings because there's no parentheses, so you jump in and start doing combining like terms. You have 1x here, another plus 1x, a plus 6x, and a plus 6x. So combine all of those x's together. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 6 is 8, 8 plus 6 makes 14x. Then you have a -3 that's a like term with another -3. -3 minus 3 is going to give you -6, and that all equals 50. So just by combining like terms, you have shrunk this problem down into a normal two-step problem in one move. Okay. The opposite of subtracting 6 is going to be to add 6 on both sides, which gets you your normal move. You have 14x equals 56. To separate the 14 from the x, you want to divide by 14. Cancel off your 14s, and then your answer will end up being x equals 4. So a problem that started off looking monstrously long and difficult really wasn't that bad. All right, the next one is going to look like this. -3 parentheses 5 minus y equals -60. This one's short, but it's still considered multi-step because of what's in it. You see parentheses, so immediately you know you have to distribute. -3 times 5 is -15. -3 times -y is positive 3y. Please watch your signs. That's one of the careless mistakes that I see happening over and over again. Equals -60. And at this point, you are back to your normal two-step equation. Right? You always want to move the item not touching the variable first, so that'd be the -15. Opposite of -15 is add 15. Don't ever touch the number attached to the variable until the very end. 3y equals -45. And at this point, we're ready to divide. Divide both sides by 3. And you get y equals -15. So there's your final answer for that one. We have a couple more examples of what you might see pop up that's considered multi-step. This one, the directions are a little bit different than what the other ones look like, so it might be a little confusing at first, but if you watch what I do, it should make a little bit more sense. If 3m minus 12 equals 9, find -4m minus 7. Well, in order to do this, you have to know the value of m, because you cannot plug anything into the expression -4m minus 7 until you know what m is. So your first job is going to be to take the equation, which is just a normal two-step, okay, and solve it for m. We would add 12 to both sides. So now you have 3m equals 21. Divide by 3. And that gives you m equals 7. Now 7 is not your answer to the whole problem. 7 is just the value of m. So now you're going to take your 7 for your m and go all the way up to your expression and plug it in. So we're going to have -4 times 7 minus 7. And use order of operations to get your answer. -4 times 7 is -28. -28 minus 7 is going to give you -35. So the answer to this problem is -35, not 7. But you needed the 7 to even get close to getting the right answer. Right? So that's a problem that uses an answer to help get another answer. Right? So it's multi-step in a different way, but it's still considered multi-step. Okay? And the last thing that we will do is you want to be able to solve the equation and justify each step with a property. We will do more of these in class, but I want to show you what an example of this would look like before you come to class. Okay, and we're only going to do one of these. All right, here's our original equation, and the first thing we want to do, obviously, to solve it is to distribute. And we're distributing, remember, a -1 that's invisible there. -1 times 3x gives us -3x. -1 times -9 gives us +9. Bring down the x in the front. Bring down equals -5. Now, the next thing you have to do to justify it is to tell what property you used to get the answer. We distributed, so this would be our distributive property. That's your justification. You're proving what property you use to get the answer that you're trying to get. Okay, the next step that we have is going to be to combine like terms. So x minus 3x, or 1 minus 3, is going to give us -2x plus 9 equals -5. And anytime that you want to combine like terms, then the justification for that off to the side is combine like terms. There's no property name for that. So combining or simplifying is pretty much what we say for that one. Then the next step you have, you're at a two-step equation, so we're going to use some other properties to help us get to our answer. We have to subtract 9 from both sides. So we have -2x equals -14. And anytime we subtract the same number from both sides of the equation, this is what is known as the subtraction property of equality. If you remember when we did properties earlier this year, I told you that you would have to know about these when we do equations. Well, here we are, and here's when you have to know them. All right, so any operation that you do on both sides, it has a name, and it's that operation property of equality. So then the next thing that you would do to get your answer is going to be to divide by -2 on both sides. That will give us x equals 7 as our answer. Right? And while our answer is good, we need to justify what allowed us to do that. And because we divided both sides, this would be known as the division property of equality. And we will do more of these justification examples and practicing in class. So if you're not quite good at it at this point, you will get better, and we will make sure that you know what you're doing.